Hello there, Moist Charlie Clips Army. Today I want to talk about what is the hardest boss I've ever beaten in a game. Most of you know my favorite genre is Souls-like. I absolutely love the challenge, I love the gameplay of the Souls genre, and I've played every major Souls-like game, and I've beaten every single boss in all of them now. Actually, that's not exactly fair to say. I don't want anyone wiggling their finger to remind me of one or two. I didn't finish all of the Chalice dungeons in Bloodborne. Fucking sue me, alright? I don't feel like going through the goddamn Chalice dungeons. But aside from the Chalice dungeon bosses, I've done every other Souls-like boss. And after the video from yesterday, this boss almost made me rage quit video, I got to thinking, was that the boss that took me the longest to beat and also the most deaths I ever encountered in a video game to one enemy? If you haven't seen the video, it's Jedi Survivor, and I go against an optional boss named Spawn of Ogdo. I died over 100 times, and it took me close to 2.5 hours of constant, unwavering attempts to beat him. This was a true anime main character moment where I just didn't fucking give up. I just kept slamming my head against this brick wall of Ogdo until I finally prevailed and had a breakthrough and won. And I wanted to reflect and see, is that the boss that took me the longest ever? And if it was, what made it so difficult? And I'm going to get into that in a moment, but I just want to off-rip let you know, Spawn of Ogdo is a whole bunch of hooey. It's a load of baloney. The design of this boss is dog shit. No matter how you spin it, you're spinning a rotisserie chicken of fecal matter. Spawn of Ogdo, from what I have read, is actually currently bugged. A lot of things that make him so difficult was unintentional and is just the result of a glitch. A couple of glitches, actually. At least according to what I've read. And that sounds about par for the course. If you've watched the video or you watched me stream it last night, you'll probably know exactly what parts are glitched. We'll talk about that in a minute. But going through my history of the Souls-like games, I actually did a marathon of all of them a little over a year and a half ago. So I have fresh data to pull from. So I went to the ones that stick out in my head. For Dark Souls 3, I know the boss that took me the most attempts was the Nameless King, embarrassingly. He was feeding me my vegetables. It took me roughly 20 attempts to kill the Nameless King. Oh! For Demon Souls, I know the boss that took me the longest to beat was the Armored Spider, which is also fucking shameful. It took me, I think, right around 15-ish attempts to kill the Armored Spider. I'm just gonna stand in front. Oh, maybe that's a bad idea. For Bloodborne, and this is usually the boss I say is the hardest boss ever in any game I've played, it was Orphan of Kos, and it took me 28 attempts to kill the Orphan. I've always said Orphan of Kos is the hardest boss in any of the Souls games, and up until recently I believed that. Oh my god, fucking unlucky. Dodged the wrong way. Now for Sekiro, this is where things get very interesting. So, on my first playthrough of Sekiro, it actually took me over 4 hours to defeat the true final boss, Ishin the Sword Saint. Over 4 hours of attempts. I never cracked 100 deaths because the battle was much, much longer. Ogdo kills you in one shot if you get hit by anything. Any single move from Ogdo instant kills you. Whereas in Sekiro, not only do you have a respawn mechanic, but it also doesn't one-shot you with every move. So the attempts lasted longer. I didn't take over 100 deaths. But it took me almost double the time to kill Ishin than it did to kill Spawn of Ogdo. So close! Sweet Jesus Christ. Ah! Alright, good practice, warm up. Now interestingly though, when I went back for the marathon and fought Ishin Sword Saint again, it only took me 13 attempts, so I improved drastically. But now to the most recent game, Elden Ring. Elden Ring is actually where we find the other two bosses that took me the most attempts out of the whole series, or the whole genre. And the first one is Melania, of course, a classic. Melania took me 33 tries to beat, which was just over an hour and 45 minutes, roughly like 2 hours. So a little quicker than Spawn of Ogdo. No reason to risk it. Gotcha, let's fucking go! Sub 35. I think that was run number 33. But then we get to who I consider now to be probably the hardest boss I've ever fought against, and that was Release Radahn, no summons. It took me over 66 attempts on Radahn. I already forgot how you fucking say it. Over 66 attempts in well north of 2.5 hours. He's gonna do a giant gravity pull. Oh, nope, that's new. Oh! Was that like a change-up pitch? So Radahn, going into Jedi Survivor, was the boss that took me the most deaths and most attempts, except for Ishin's Sword Saint. That one's still just on a whole different level. I must have been hit by a stupid beam because I could not beat him when I did my first playthrough of it without cheesing him. And it took me 4 hours. But when I went back, it only took me 13 tries. So the data's a little skewed there, but those are going to be the top contenders. Radahn, Ishin Sword Saint, and Melania. Those are really the three that Spawn of Ogdo had to compete with. And when we look at the number of deaths, I took more deaths to Spawn of Ogdo than all three of those bosses combined. I lost count at over 120 something deaths against Spawn of Ogdo. And it's because the game not only loads extremely quickly, which is a great thing, but like I said, everything insta-kills you, so you're always restarting and going right back to the beginning. So all of the attempts are just rapid fire. They're able to just really rack up quickly. So now, let's talk about why Spawn of Ogdo was so difficult for me, and not just me, for pretty much everyone. I'm obviously playing on the highest difficulty, Jedi Grandmaster, so like I said, everything one-shots you. I'm not too upset about that, though I wish there were a couple of moves that didn't, like his normal attack, which comes out like in literally like one frame. It's like a frame one attack with no delays, and even when you parry it, he can immediately just do it again, and in fact, he does multiple times. So his normal attack is just like a normal bite, which once you get the timing down, you can parry, but it's fucking worthless because he has no stagger window, no stance break, no actual punish opportunity with his normal attacks. So if you parry both of his bites, which he usually does back to back, so one chomp, two chomp, and you parry both of them, you can't actually punish that because he can just do it again before you can finish your attack animation. Sometimes you get lucky and it stalls a bit so you can get a punish in there, but it's never worth risking because you can insta-cast it again. Also, towards the end of the fight, he can do it 4 times in a row, so you can go 1 bite, 2 bite, 3 bite, 4 bite, and if you try and parry all of those, you still can't punish him because you can just start the whole chain over again. What makes Ogdo so difficult is there's never an opportunity to punish him, and he has, I think, 5 unparryable, unblockable moves that, of course, all one-shot. So, I just had this clip playing here. It doesn't really showcase too much, really, but one of his moves is this charge, which you have to jump over. You can't dodge because it's a fucking homing missile. It can read your mind and it will always hit you if you try and dodge. So you have to jump over it, and you can't actually punish him at the end of it because this is one of his bugs. After his dash, he can insta-cast any move, whether it's the unblockable bite that you have to dodge, which you won't have time to dodge if you try and punish after his charge, or his normal bite, which you won't have time to parry or dodge if you decide to try and punish after his charge. So, the charge is a big frame trap. It's just a complete bait. If you try and punish after his charge, you die. Every time without fail. Which is so counterintuitive because in every other Souls game, and not just Souls game, but just every other game in general, if you dodge someone's big charge, it leaves them open for punishable opportunity, a window. That doesn't exist with Spawn of Ogdo, and also you can only ever get one attack on Spawn of Ogdo before he starts his next set of attack chain, so it's just a really long, tedious fight regardless. You can only ever get one opportunity to attack in between moves. And there's only 2 punishable moves that I was able to pick up on. That is his dodgeable bite, so that's his unblockable that you have to dodge bite. You can get 1 attack, 2 if you're really quick on that, but that's very rare. And then his other one is the acid tinkler, like he vomits out acid. You can get a punish in there as well, but not a big one. So those are really your only 2 opportunities. Everything else you're parrying or dodging, but parrying's worthless because you can't punish off of a parry against him and you can't break his fortitude or anything. So the only reason you're parrying is so that way your block stance doesn't break. And you can try and keep distance to let it slow regen, but it's not really worth it either because he is so quick. The boss is just fucking bullshit. Also, to everyone in Twitch chat that just kept saying, why not spam lightsaber throw? You can't on Jedi Grandmaster difficulty. Your force powers don't regen. You only get your force back through normal attacks landing. So I have to be attacking in order to be able to do the lightsaber throw, so I can't just endlessly spam it or anything like that. So one of the other glitches right now is with another attack of his tongue. His tongue is undodgeable. So if you try and dodge his tongue, you will get hit every single time. There's only two ways of avoiding it. One, getting out of range, or two, jumping over it. But it's not really intuitive to jump over his tongue because it seems like it should still hit you, but it doesn't. So you can only jump over it or get out of range. If you try and dodge it, it's going to kill you every time, and of course it's an insta-kill. Spawn of Ogdo, with all of this in mind, I don't want this video to be like fucking 30 minutes of me just whining about this one boss. But Spawn of Ogdo is now, based on all of the data I've collected, looking through VODs and full streams, is now the boss that I have taken the most deaths on before defeating, with well north of like 120 something deaths, which is crazy that it came in Jedi Survivor. It's a fucking wild boss. It is an unfair boss and an unfun fight. It is not a fun fight, and it doesn't function the way I think they intended it to. Like I mentioned, there's 2 reported bugs with it. At least that's what people are assuming is going on. But god damn it, I fucking did it regardless, and I know a lot of other people have as well. There is a cheese that exists with it, but that cheese doesn't quite work on the highest difficulty, and I wouldn't cheese a boss like that anymore. I learned my lesson with Ishin because I felt so bad cheesing him to beat him. I would not do that again. So I did it the old-fashioned way, blood, sweat, tears, and elbow grease. I fucking took it to Spawn of Ogdo. It may have taken me over 100 attempts, but god damn it, we got there. We got there. And it is not the longest time I've spent on one boss. That honor still belongs to Ishin. So anyway, just wanted to clear that up and get one video together to put all of the hardest boss fights into one thing and now have a conclusive winner for which one took the most attempts. It's Spawn of Ogdo, which is crazy. It took me more attempts on him than fucking Monas in Dark Souls 1, Nameless King Dark Souls 3, fucking Radahn, Malenia, all of them put together, which is wild. So, yeah, I mean, that's really about it. So, yeah.